Welcome to Etihad Focus, your number one spot for the latest match updates, transfer news, and inside training coverage. If you love football, you're in the right place. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any breaking updates. Let's get started. Pep Guardiola gives Mark Guehi to Manchester City transfer update. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola spoke about Mark Guehi's move from Crystal Palace in the January transfer window. Pep Guardiola said that he believed Mark Guehi was close to joining Manchester City, but has not had confirmation from his bosses. Hugo Viana and Ferran Soriano were at Old Trafford for the 2-0 derby defeat, and are apparently yet to tell the manager that a deal is done for the Crystal Palace defender. City expect the £20 million transfer to be completed in the coming days, with Guehi not travelling with his Palace teammates for their Premier League game at Sunderland at the weekend. The 25-year-old is not eligible to play for City in the Champions League first phase, so does not need to be rushed into the squad in time for the game against Bodo Glimt on Tuesday, meaning his debut could be against Wolves on Saturday. "I don't know yet officially from my club," said Guardiola. "When I think you will know it, I will know when they tell me. Apparently it's close, but I spoke now with Ferran and Hugo, and they didn't tell me anything about it." Guardiola was forced into a defensive change at half-time at Old Trafford with the plan not working for City. With John Stones, Ruben Dias and Josko Gvardiol all out injured, Max Alleyne was replaced by Nico O'Reilly at the break in what was a tough afternoon for the 20-year-old who had played so well in his first 3 games for the club. City will hope Alleyne is better for the experience of his first Manchester derby, and he will be needed for the second half of the season regardless of Guehi arriving. Guardiola was willing to write off Saturday as a bad day at the office and has not forgotten the performances that came before it. Ruben and Josko were out, but Max has been top the last 2 games that he played. He said, of course, today the first few actions losing that they have to live that experience and be better. But the games against Newcastle, for example, he has been extraordinary. Many players come here for the first time with a Man City shirt, and we need those kind of things to grow. Guehi on verge of Manchester City switch. Man UTD reject Maguire offers. Liverpool latest. All the latest January transfer window news, gossip and rumours. Manchester City have agreed a deal in principle to sign Crystal Palace defender and captain Mark Guehi. Guehi had been garnering interest from other clubs such as Liverpool, Arsenal and Bayern Munich, but Pep Guardiola's side will win the race for the centre-back. Oliver Glasner confirmed as much in a press conference on Friday, where he also announced his decision to leave Palace at the end of the season. Some negotiations over Guehi's move are still taking place, with the Eagles wanting an asking price of £35 to £40 million for the defender, despite him being out of contract at the end of the season. Manchester United are looking to strengthen before the January transfer window closes. In midfield, they have lined up Carlos Baleba, Marcos Llorente and Elliot Anderson as targets. Man City are also said to be interested in Anderson, while Nottingham Forest defender Murillo is being looked at to reinforce the defence. The club have rejected several offers for defender Harry Maguire, whose contract is expiring. Chelsea, meanwhile, have reportedly made a huge bid for Real Madrid's Federico Valverde, and are also reportedly interested in Lucas Paqueta. Reports from Brazil say the West Ham midfielder prefers to return to his home country, but a switch to another European club hasn't been ruled out. Federico Chiesa is willing to take a wage cut to get his move back to Juventus, according to Gazzetta dello Sport, who described the touted switch as a matter of love for the Italian. It comes after reports that Juventus were making progress on meeting Liverpool's demands for the player, with the club only wanting a permanent transfer. The Turin club had initially offered a loan with an option to buy, but are now putting forward a purchase obligation to try and make the deal more attractive. Xabi Alonso does not look like he will have much trouble finding a new high-powered role following his shock Real Madrid departure, with Liverpool among the clubs eyeing up the Spaniard, according to AS. Liverpool admire their former midfield maestro and have not let his struggles in the cursed real role cloud overshadow his exploits at Bayer Leverkusen, which saw him end Bayern Munich's reign of terror to win the Bundesliga in an invincible domestic season. It's for that reason that Bayern are also keen on the Spaniard, as are Manchester City, who could lose Pep Guardiola this summer. Liverpool, meanwhile, may choose to move on from Arne Slot if performances do not pick up before the end of the season. Manchester United have no plans to bring Marcus Rashford back into the fold, despite Ruben Amorim now being out of the picture. The England international is excelling on loan at Barcelona, who could exercise their option to sign him permanently for around £26 million at the end of the season. But if they don't, Rashford will not get a lifeline at Old Trafford, with Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada sharing the sentiment held by Amorim that had the winger offloaded in the first place. Richarlison's 7-week injury layoff will not force Tottenham to look for short-term alternatives, according to Thomas Frank. Spurs leading scorer Richarlison sustained a hamstring injury in Saturday's 2-1 loss to Aston Villa in the FA Cup and is unlikely to return until March. Frank welcomed back Dominic Solanke against Villa for his first appearance since August 23rd, and whilst the Danish coach lost Mohamed Kudus to injury and sold Brennan Johnson to Crystal Palace earlier this month, Tottenham will only sign an attacker if they are part of the club's long-term plans. Why Manchester City have signed £20 million, Mark Guehi, Pep Guardiola factor, transfer coup, player ambition. Manchester City are set to confirm the £20 million signing of Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace in the coming days. Manchester City are convinced Mark Guehi represents one of the best value deals in recent history. City will pay an initial £20 million for the England and Crystal Palace defender, rising to £30 million, depending on appearances and certain successes. There is also a percentage sell-on clause inserted in the deal, while City chairman Khaldoon Al-Mubarak has agreed to double Guehi's wages to £200,000 a week. But given some of the previous spending City have indulged in, combined with the fact Guehi is 25 and not even approaching his peak yet, senior club figures are thrilled with getting such a signing over the line. As reported here last week, City have stolen a march on Liverpool, not to mention some of Europe's biggest clubs, to land the centre-back. It's understood Palace's decision to sell Guehi before he became a free agent in June was the catalyst for Oliver Glasner deciding to leave the club at the end of this season. But this won't concern City. Pep Guardiola approached Al-Mubarak earlier this month, asking the club to explore the chances of getting Guehi, when he realised injuries to Josko Gvardiol and Ruben Dias would knock a huge hole in his defensive options. With Arsenal continuing to lead the title race, Guardiola knew he had to do something fast. Talks between the two clubs accelerated earlier this week, but Guardiola has admired Guehi from afar for a couple of seasons. He likes Guehi's calmness in possession, ability to bring the ball out of defence, and his dedication to being the best footballer he can be. The Spaniard also identified Guehi as the long-term replacement for John Stones. Guehi had his pick of around 6 clubs, including Bayern Munich and Inter Milan, but once Guardiola's interest became known to him, his mind was made up. Few players would reject the chance to work for one of the greatest managers of all time, and Guehi is no different. There is the added incentive of challenging for the biggest trophies in club football and regular Champions League competition. But Guehi has told people close to him that he expects Guardiola to take his game to a whole new level. Guehi's arrival at the Etihad will spell bad news for Stones. He is out of contract at the end of this season and was hoping to sign an extension with Guardiola's men. But no agreement has been reached, with Guardiola having reservations about the centre-back's fitness problems. Stones, who will be 32 in May, has been restricted to just 7 league appearances this season due to injuries. And he knows he will fall down the pecking order once City secure the services of England teammate Guehi. Pep Guardiola press conference, Manchester City injury updates and Manchester United preview. Manchester City head coach Pep Guardiola will address the media this afternoon ahead of the trip to Manchester United on Saturday. Manchester City head coach Pep Guardiola will be in front of the media this afternoon ahead of tomorrow's clash with neighbours Manchester United at Old Trafford. City have enjoyed a good week leading up to the derby thanks to a 2-0 victory at Newcastle in the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg. A victory in the derby would be a big statement in the title race and would move the Blues just 3 points behind Arsenal at the top. Guardiola is having to contend with several injuries at present, and it is unclear if anyone will be able to return this weekend. John Stones should be the closest to a return, but he was not ready on Tuesday night. Antoine Semenyo